Welcome back to learning about the Miro board. In the first video, we covered the foundation. There we reviewed what Miro is, how the interface works, and how to build a structured board using frames and sticky notes. Essentially transforming a blank infinite canvas into a guided tour of our ideas. If you haven't watched that one, it's worth starting there. You can find the link in the description. This video is about building faster and thinking more visually. We're going to cover shapes, connectors, and the keyboard shortcuts that let you construct a workflow diagram without touching the toolbar once. And to keep it grounded, we're not going to build something abstract. We're going to map out something real, a customer service contact flow. The kind of diagram your team could actually put on a shared Miro board and use in a meeting. By the end, you'll have a real, connected visual diagram built entirely with shapes, connectors, and keyboard shortcuts. Let's get into it. Sticky notes are great for capturing ideas. But the moment you want to show how things connect, flow, or branch, can you really do that with sticky notes alone? Not really. That's where we need shapes. Shapes are the visual vocabulary that turns a loose collection of ideas into an actual diagram. To create one, press S on your keyboard, and a shape picker appears. Click the one you want and drop it anywhere on the canvas. Simple enough, but the shape you choose carries meaning, and it's worth being intentional about that. So before we start building, let's quickly cover the visual language of flowcharts, because there is one, and most people recognize it without ever being taught it explicitly. Starting with rectangles or rounded rectangles, simply put, these represent steps or actions, something that happens. Next up, diamonds represent decisions, a yes or no fork in the road. And ovals or rounded capsules are typically used for start and end points. You don't have to follow these conventions rigidly for every board you build. But for anything you're sharing with people outside your immediate team, following them makes the diagram readable at a glance. All right? Let's start building our chart. You'll see this process is easy. First, press F to create a frame and name it something like the name you see here on the screen. There you go, that's sorted out. This keeps it anchored in the board's structure, which you set up in our first video. Now press S and select an oval. This is your starting point, the entry into the entire contact flow. Drop it at the top of the frame and double-click to type inside it, Customer Contact. Every customer journey starts here, a phone call, a chat message, an email. Next, press S again and place a rectangle just below it, then double-click and type Bot Initial Questions. This rectangle represents the first action in the flow. The bot picks up the contact and runs through a first round of triage questions before a human gets involved. Now, how do we connect these two shapes? First, hover over any shape and you'll see small blue dots appear at its edges. These are your connection handles. Now, click one and drag. A line extends from that point. There you go. Next, drag it to the next shape and release, and the connector snaps between the two. Go ahead and connect Customer Contact down to Bot Initial Questions. That single arrow tells anyone reading the diagram, this is where it starts, and this is what happens first. Now here's something worth knowing. That connector stays attached even when you move the shapes. If you rearrange your diagram, which you will, because diagrams always need rearranging, the connections follow. You're not just chasing loose lines around the canvas. After the bot has run its questions, something has to happen next, doesn't it? Of course, either the customer's issue is simple enough that the bot can resolve it, or it's more complex and needs a human agent. That branching moment, where the flow splits into two possible paths, is exactly what a decision diamond is for. So press S, select the diamond shape, and place it below the bot rectangle. Double-click and type, Issue Resolved by Bot. Now connect the bot rectangle down to this diamond. This diamond is the first fork in our contact flow, the moment where an automated resolution and a human handoff diverge. And that split is the most important thing to communicate clearly in any process diagram. Quick side note before we continue, and this one will save you time. What if you've already placed a rectangle and then realized it should be a diamond? Do you delete it and start over? No, there's something much simpler. Select the shape and press Ctrl plus Shift plus S. A shape switcher appears, and you can convert it to any other shape in the library. With that, all the text inside stays intact. It's a small trick, but it saves a surprising amount of redrawing, especially when you're sketching the logic quickly, and getting the flow right matters more than getting every shape perfect on the first try. Now, back to our decision diamond. From the diamond, we need two paths, one if the bot resolves the issue, one if it doesn't. So, draw one connector going to the right. This will be our resolution path, and draw another going downward. This will be our escalation path. Now, how does anyone reading this diagram know which path is which? You label the connectors. First, double-click on a connector to add a label. Now, on the right-hand path, type Yes, resolved. Also, on the downward path, type No, escalate to agent. That label is the difference between a diagram someone can follow and one they have to interpret. Remember to never leave a branching connector unlabeled. And one quick formatting note while we're here. By default, connectors are solid lines with a single arrowhead. You can change this from the formatting panel. Switch the line to dashed, for example, to signal that a path is an exception rather than the norm. In our flow, the escalation path is the exception. A dashed line, there is a subtle but useful visual cue. Okay, this is looking better. Now let's finish the diagram. Following the downward escalation path, press S and place a rectangle below the diamond. Type Agent Conversation and Resolution. This is where the human takes over. The agent converses with the customer, works through the issue, and either resolves it or escalates further. From the agent step, we need one more decision point. Press S, place a diamond below the agent rectangle, and type Issue Resolved. From this second diamond, draw two connectors. Label one going right, Yes, close contact. Label the other going downward, No, escalate to senior support. Now you need to add two final ovals to close out those paths. Place one to the right of the Yes connector and type Contact Closed. Place one below the No connector and type Escalated. Finally, go back to the first diamond, the bot decision. From the Yes Resolved connector on the right, draw a path that leads to the same contact closed oval. This connects both resolution paths to a single endpoint, which keeps the diagram clean and makes it clear that a resolved contact always ends in the same place, regardless of whether the bot or the agent handled it. Now press Ctrl plus Shift plus H to zoom to fit. What do you see now? A complete customer service contact flow, from first contact all the way through to resolution or escalation. Built with shapes and connectors, readable at a glance, and meaningful enough to put in front of your team. Now that you've built something, let's make sure the shortcuts that got you here are locked in. Because the biggest difference between a Miro beginner and someone who's been using it for a few months isn't knowledge, it's muscle memory. You've already used most of these, so think of this as a quick review. Starting with S for shapes. Press S, pick your shape, drop it. Next up is F for frames. Press F, click and drag your structure instantly. Use Ctrl plus D to duplicate, select any element or a group of them, and press Ctrl plus D. An exact copy appears just below and to the right of the original. This is how you'd add a second agent step to the flow, for example, without rebuilding the rectangle from scratch. Whenever you make a small mistake, just use Ctrl plus Z to undo. There is almost nothing you can do in Miro that can't be undone. And Ctrl plus Shift plus H to zoom to fit. Whenever you've zoomed in and lost the big picture, press this and the whole board snaps back into view. Sounds simple enough to use? Well then, one more technique worth knowing, and one you'll use constantly when refining a diagram like this one. That's selecting multiple elements at once. First, click and drag across an area. Everything inside the selection box gets selected. Then move the whole group, duplicate it, or change its color, all at once. Say you want to shift the entire agent section of the flow slightly lower to give it more breathing room. Rather than nudging each shape individually, click and drag to select them all, then move the group as a unit. There we go. Wasn't that simple? The skills that got you to build this, all the shapes, connectors, and everything else you used, are the same ones you'll use for every process or workflow you build in Miro from here on. The next step is just practice. Open a blank board, pick another process from your work, and build it. The first one will take longer than you expect. Then, the second will be noticeably faster. By the time you reach the fifth process, most of this will feel completely natural. And now go build something you're proud to share with your team. Good luck!